Hey now, Brawlers, it's time for another Board Game Brawl review with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at Alicematic Heroes from Japanime Games. This was originally a Japanese-only game from the company Manifest Destiny, which I believe is just one person, Kuro. Reviewed a number of his games before in the past, and Alicematic Heroes is the newest game that Japanime is bringing over here from over there. Alicematic Heroes, as the name implies, has to do with Alice in Wonderland in the bizarre world of Alicematic Heroes. There are many, many Alices, and they're split into factions, and they're vying for control of this Wonderland-ish type of world. They're doing that through territory control. There's different map tiles of land with different territories worth differing amounts. They're differing difficulty to get into, and they're worth points, of course. But you're also using a card-driven system to give yourself the resources to take those territories, along with the powers of the special Alice cards, because there are a lot of Alices. Okay, I've said too much. Let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played. Then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think. Alicematic Heroes is a competitive game for 3 to 5 players. Each player controls a team of Alices trying to conquer Wonderland. The game is played over the course of 14 rounds. At the end of the game, points are tallied based on who controls the most territories on map tiles, who controls the most Alices on each of their kingdom cards, and also according to the special powers of their Alice cards. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Randomize the map tiles and lay them out on the table, with more tiles based on the number of players. Every tile is broken up into 7 colored territories, with the center territory being a city. Some of the territories are dark, mystic forests, which we'll explain later. Every player gets a kingdom set, which includes a set of territory tokens and cards, which are laid out in front of each player. The red card represents military power, blue is population, yellow is dream power, green is food, and white represents order. These are slots upon which you'll play Alice and commoner cards, and each one has a different ability it brings to bear in the game. More on that later. Every player gets 5 cards from the shuffled Alice deck. Alice cards are split by color, matching up to the kingdom cards. Each one has a dream power cost in the top corner and a special power called a Megalomania, which will either activate immediately when played, at the end of the game, or under certain conditions during the game. We'll talk more about how they work in a moment. 3 different colored resource tokens and point tokens are also stacked nearby. One player is chosen to get the start player marker. Starting with that player, everyone will place 1 territory token on a map tile along one of the edges, in the city territory of the tile. Once everyone has done this in turn order, you'll do it again in reverse order so that everyone has 2 territories under their control. After that, you're ready to begin. When each player has taken a turn, that will constitute a round, and you'll do that 14 times. Every player's turn consists of 2 steps. Step 1 is politics. A player must either play a card or draw a card. Playing a card means you're choosing to either summon an Alice into one of your 5 kingdom slots, or you're choosing to play it face down as a commoner, which also lets you draw another card from the deck. To summon an Alice, you need to have yellow dream power equal to or greater than the cost of the card. Your dream power is equal to the number of Alice cards on your yellow kingdom card, in addition to yellow dream resource tokens that you're willing to spend in order to temporarily buff up your dream power. Alice cards must be played on the kingdom slot that matches the card's color, and every slot is limited to 4 cards. And Alice's Megalomania effect occurs immediately if applicable. These abilities can get you resources or let you spend them in different ways, aid you in taking over territories from your opponents, give you points for the end of the game, or even let you move around the Alices in your own kingdom. Alternatively, you can play an Alice card face down into a slot as a commoner. Playing a commoner can empower a kingdom slot, but requires no dream power and lets you draw another card for doing so. But they still take up space on the kingdom slot and will not give you points or a special ability to use. Step 2 of a player's turn is invasion. 3 types of territories can be invaded. Empty territories, or cities that have room for another territory marker, territories considered under attack, and territories not connected to an opposing player's city. You need 2 things for a successful invasion: military power and food, which I'll explain in a moment. But if you don't have enough of either of those resources, you can still place a territory under attack by placing your territory marker on its under attack side. On any future turn, you can take the invasion action again and automatically seize that territory. Note, however, that this can never be done to a city, which must be taken all at once, and any opponent can come along and take an under attack territory out from under you. You, in turn, can do that to someone else. Every territory on the tiles has an invasion rating. That's how high your military power has to be, which is determined by the number of cards slotted to your red kingdom card, plus however many red resource tokens you're willing to spend. An army marches on its stomach. Invading territories on the same tile as a city you control requires no food, but to invade territories on other tiles, you'll need food equal to the distance. Food is determined by how many cards are slotted to your green kingdom card, and however many green resource tokens you're willing to spend. Moving through enemy territories requires additional food, and you cannot move through mystic forests at all, which are the dark territories. You'll have to go around these if possible. If you successfully seize a territory, you'll get a special bonus, which is halved if you just stole an under attack territory from an opponent. Red, yellow, and green territories will get you corresponding resource tokens equal to the cards you have in the appropriate card slot. Blue seized territories lets you draw cards equal to the cards in your blue slot with no hand limit. White seized territories give you victory points equal to the number of cards in your white spot. And cities give you a flat 3 victory points if seized, in addition to just being very useful territories to have under your control. Mystic forests are special. They normally cannot be invaded or even passed through, as mentioned before. But if a forest is completely surrounded by player-controlled territories, then the player with the most territories around it can invade it, with a difficulty equal to the number of controlled territories around it, which is also how many victory points you're rewarded with if you successfully seize it. After the 14th round, the game ends and points are tallied. Look at each map tile. Whichever player controls the most territories on a single tile gets 6 points, and the player with the second most gets 3 points. Ties are broken by the kingdom with the most Alices in play on their kingdom cards. Then look at everyone's kingdom cards. For each card, whoever has the most Alice cards, not commoners, on a slot gets points equal to the number of Alices there. If players are tied for this, they all get the same points. Lastly, players individually get points for Alice cards like Original Alice that they have in play. Whoever has the most points after all of this is the winner. Well, it's kind of interesting to review Alicematic Heroes because I feel that there's 2 games within this game. And one of them I like and one of them I don't. The part of the game that I really like quite a bit, and that I wish was even more fleshed out because I like it so much, is the card aspect, where you have your kingdom cards, and you are playing your either Alice cards, or you're putting them face down as a citizen cards, and you're just putting them, or commoners, excuse me, whatever. You're putting them on each of the slots to empower those slots. So, if you're trying to we'll get to this in a second, but anyways, you empower these different slots to give you special abilities for the other part of the game, but at the same time, you can use them just as the Alice cards, you will most of the time, in order to get their special abilities, which could either influence the board state, or could get you points for the end of the game, can let you rearrange and flip around the different things. That's what's so great about it, is there's so many different Alice hero cards that have so many different abilities, not all like overwhelmingly like game breaking, but all different in different ways and different costs, and how you have to sort of do this card management of, okay, need to have more dream power, so I need to empower that slot. Dream power lets me play more cards in other slots, but I also have to worry about other things going on in the game. I really like that aspect of the game a lot. Now, all of this that you're doing is in service of what is, in my opinion, a very weak territory control game out on the map tiles. It's not bad. The fact that it's very standard in a lot of ways. Take territory, get as many as you can. At the end of the game, you're going to get points based on how many territories you have, control of map tiles, and so on and so forth. The whole aspect of the red and the green kingdom cards, giving you your power and your food, essentially, that's very interesting, but it comes off pretty clunky. There's some, I don't know if it really came across when I was going through the the overview, but trying to figure out, like, okay, you can take an area, but you can maybe just half-ass take an area by saying it's under attack, and then anyone can come in and just take it. But if you take it all at once because you've got enough power, then great, then you can just get it. That whole thing just felt very clunky to me. I thought this could have been done way more straightforward, like, okay, I have an army, I'm marching here, let's fight. And that would have been a more viable method if there were more ways to get points in the game. That's the other thing, too, is that this was clearly just put down cards, take territory, that's how you get points at the end, we're done. But of course, some of the Alice cards. If there was a way to say, okay, I'm going to have... and this was me hoping that the game would be more grandiose than it would. If there were ways for you to be getting points by commerce or something, the tools were there. Having this interesting card system and fleshing out different aspects of your kingdom, you could have amplified that a bit and said, yeah, there are other viable ways for you to win the game other than just territory. If I'm not getting a territory, I'm losing. I have to be getting a territory every single turn, blah, 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 as much as I possibly can. And so that part of the game, just putting your little tokens out and trying to hold as much of it as you possibly can, was just not that interesting to me. But the card system was. I think you could have had a very complex, heavily strategic game that felt much more even like a Euro game, and that would have been okay in this case, as I don't typically like those, by having other viable strategies and ways to spread out and win, and supplies and selling and buying and trading and things like that. But that is beyond the scope of what's actually here, because what is here is just a very light territory control game with a really interesting card aspect. So I won't belabor the point too much more. I do, just to reiterate the things I do like, though, I do love how many interesting Alice heroes. I do like the anime artwork, too, although I know that's not going to work for everybody. And the production quality overall was pretty solid. I do think that if you're into territory control games, and maybe you wanted something a little bit lighter for people, because there are some really heavy ones out there, then yeah, I think this is definitely one you should check out. Otherwise, I'm not sure that it's not even based on an anime, but the anime-ish and manga-ish themes and artwork of it might put you over the edge. There's not a lot of really good games that have this artwork nowadays, but Alicematic is just an okay one, unfortunately, for me. That is Alicematic Heroes from Japanime Games. Check it out if you are so inclined.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.